Welcome back, YouTube pipe smokers. This is Birch and Piper. This is Wilson with you. And where I am in Texas, it is wet and cold. Well, it's cold for Texas. It's in the low 40s, and so this time of year, it's fairly cool. And so I'm enjoying the change of weather. Enjoying some coffee this morning and getting some reading and writing done. So I always enjoy the change and the coming fall and winter time. So before we get into the video, which is kind of it covers two sections or two parts. I want to show you what I am smoking today. I'm smoking two pipes as usual, as I have time to sit down and swap between the two. I'm smoking my Peterson Irish Harp 106 and my Peterson Iran 106 Peterson 107. Now, as you see, they're just one digit away from each other. Why is it one digit away? Because one is slightly longer than the other. This one's about a half inch longer. By the way, if you're in the looking to purchase a pipe and you're interested in this style, which is kind of like a billiard or straight Dublin, um, I prefer the 106 over the 107. This one's a little too long to be a good clincher. It's great for reading, and if you can have your hand on your pipe, but this one is almost perfect. This is one of my favorite pipes, so bear that in mind. And it was only like maybe $90, what have you. So it's middle of the road, if you will. And smoking out of that, one of the blends I'm smoking out of that today is a 2017 GOP's Navigator that I got in from a viewer, which I've been really grateful. I have a review of this coming out this week, so be in tune Friday for that. Hopefully there's no interruptions there like there was last week, and I should have that out. So be aware of that. So today, in line with smoking two pipes, I had a video come out a while back on how often you can smoke a pipe, or how often do you need to rest your pipes, and you can find a link right there up for that. I encourage you to follow that first and listen to it. That might be a little more helpful. In that video, I do cover how often you could, or it's of course like many things, it's up to opinion, but I at least go over what I do as far as how often I smoke a pipe. Long story short, I smoke a pipe as little as maybe once in a day, and as much as for possibly 5 times in a day. And that's because I swap out between two pipes. So I'll smoke this one, I get done with the bowl, I just really quick clean out the stem and shank with a pipe cleaner, and I move on to the next one, and I let this one rest. So there is a further way to gauge, though, how often you should smoke a pipe, and I think this is going to deal more with us intermediate and veteran pipe smokers. You probably already know this, and you probably already tell this. But one other way to further tell, okay, how long can I smoke a pipe, is in changing of taste of your tobacco. And this is something you pick up over time. You beginners, you're probably not going to get this automatically, but one thing I notice is as you smoke a pipe throughout the day, and so I'm going to just go ahead and take this Navigator here. I know what it tastes like. I've been smoking this often, or quite a bit recently, for a review, and so I'm trying to get familiar with it, and take blends that you even know better than that. I'm a big Chelsea Morning Stonehenge Flake guy. I know what it tastes like. I know what it tastes like in different pipes. I have an idea of what I want from it and what it delivers. So when I'm smoking it fairly regular in a day, or maybe it's just once towards the end of the day, I can tell if the change or if the taste changes. And that's one thing that you can keep in mind, is when the taste begins to change in your pipe, that's probably a good sign that you need to go ahead and set it to the side and get it cleaned and put up for resting time. And so usually I find this around maybe the third or fourth smoke, usually. So it usually lines up regularly on that. But I will notice after the third smoke, the flavors, the character of the blend of the tobacco leaves changes. Those flavors are muddled. Things begin to taste a little bit more, maybe dirty, maybe just more tobacco-y. I know that might not be helpful, the description, but the notes, the characters begin to be muddled, diluted, what have you. And the overall taste kind of begins to change a little bit. And of course, that has nothing to do necessarily with the tobacco. It has to do with the pipe that's just getting too dirty or too overused and needs to be cleaned out. Now, to kind of further this and give you an example, if you smoke a pipe a couple times in a day, and then after those 2 times, then you run a pipe cleaner in, you will notice how much residue is in that pipe. There's quite a bit. And so that's why usually, as I mentioned, I'll take a pipe cleaner after I'm done using smoking a pipe, and I'll run it down into the shank and just before it gets to the bowl, so keep that in mind, and I'll just kind of rub it back and forth a little bit and pull it out, and usually you get quite a bit of residue from it. So uh, tobacco residue itself, of the leaves, of the soot, of the moisture that comes out of the tobacco, of the moisture that comes out of your mouth, those things will come out. They are stuck in there in that stem and shank. And so have that in your mind, and have that in your mind as you continue to smoke it during the day. There's just going to be some buildup, and it's going to change the taste of your tobacco. So with that itself, you can help yourself have an idea of when you need to clean your pipe. That might change for different people. Like I said, for me, that's around 3 bowls. After 3 bowls, the taste changes, and I know I need to be done with it for the day. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that gives you an idea of where to, to tell how often your pipe needs to be cleaned. And so going forward, one thing I haven't done in a while is have just a book review, and that was something mentioned, is having quick reviews. About 4 weeks ago, when I had you guys send in some video recommendations, this is something that came up periodically in the comments of having book reviews. So I do want to give a quick one. Bear in mind, this probably couldn't be, or this isn't as best of a review as it should be, because I read this book back in January. However, it did leave an impact on me, and I feel like I can do a decent enough job to recommend it for you. So the book I want to recommend greatly is Dan Carlin's The End is Always Near. Now, some of you may be familiar with Dan Carlin. Dan Carlin is formerly a radio talk show host and now a podcast host. He has a couple of podcasts. One is Hardcore History, and the other one, which is not as periodic, it used to be periodic, but is kind of in the back burner as of now, I believe, is Common Sense. Dan Carlin has been a tremendous influence when it comes to history for me. I started listening to him about 5 years ago. You may not care at all about history, but I think he will grab you, and he's such a great storyteller, and he has a great voice for radio and podcasts too, so that helps. So I even there, I recommend him for the podcast. If you're a podcast listener, which I am, I think you'll greatly benefit from him. So he did have this book come out at the end of last year. I finally picked it up. I picked it up when it came out. I pre-ordered it, and I finally got to read it in January. So why am I recommending this right now? Because it's 2020, and 2020 happened, and a lot of things in 2020 happened. So it was kind of ironic that this came out right beforehand, because what he covers is the apocalyptic moments throughout human history, how we always came to the brink of collapse as far as civilization altogether. So he hits on this in a historical mindset, or an historical viewpoint on the various things that's occurred in our past. We've just come across the coronavirus, and that has been quite a scare, and it's been devastating in various ways. However, I think we could confidently say, this has nothing to do with politics or how we approach dealing with the virus, but we can say this is definitely not the most severe thing we've touched on or we've had dealt with. One example he gives is the Justinian plague back in the 540s AD or 540s CE. At that time, it it killed about 100 million people, and that's where the population of the world was incredibly, incredibly lower than what it is now. So 100 million people is a massive amount of individuals who are killed. That was back in 540. And of course, you think of the bubonic plague in the 1400s, things like that. He talks about the wars that have occurred that called devastation. He talks about starvation that has occurred. Um, he gets into us owning the nuclear weapons, and he talks about their the devastation back in World War II with Japan and the aftermath of that. So he covers this from a historical perspective and talks about the various things that have come across human history. And then he gets into more of a philosophical mindset of uh, do tough times create tougher people? And so he kind of gets the aspect of how these near end collapses have always created a tougher generation who then create better times. And those better times create softer people, and those softer people create harder times. So you kind of see there's almost a cyclical cycle. I kind of repeated myself there. There's always a cycle going on there in human history. And so he kind of gives you a way to just look at this. He makes you ponder and think about how we should view times we're going through right now, what's to come, but why we shouldn't be so fearful. And that's one thing I try to encourage, just not my congregation at my church, but those I interact with on social media is, yeah, these are pretty tough times. Some of us have dealt with it far worse than others, but the end has been near quite a bit of times, and we are quite blessed in our current society. In the past 100 years, we've dealt with far better situations than many others in the past have. So this helps put us in perspective. So I do encourage it for you. It might actually help you during this year, and at least for us in the United States, I think we're going to continue to deal with a little bit of issues with the politics and the election, and so this might be helpful. The End is Always Near by Dan Carlin. I do recommend it. And if you have read it, please let me know. That'd be interesting to hear your feedback. In fact, the best place to put that feedback is on the Facebook page, the Spurgeon Piper. It's really easy to stay in touch with everyone and kind of have better commenting going on than what YouTube allows. So check out that page, the Spurgeon Piper on Facebook. I'll have a link below. So guys, I hope you have a good week. This Friday I'll have a tobacco review coming out, and I'm hoping it will be something you're interested in. I love GLP's blends, and so I always want to touch on one time to time. So y'all have a blessed week, and we will talk to you soon.